My name is Abigail Rowan. I live in a small town just outside Asheville, North Carolina. I never thought I'd share something like this with the world. In fact, for a long time, I didn't even know how to find the words. But what happened to me on October 12th, 2020, changed everything. My body, my soul, and my understanding of what it means to follow Jesus in a world that's rapidly losing sight of him. That day started like any other. I'd woken up early to make tea and read my Bible before heading to my shift at the local clinic. I work as a hospice aide, which means I spend a lot of my days with people who are dying, praying with them, holding their hands, and reminding them they're not alone. I always thought I understood death. I thought I was at peace with it, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to experience. I remember coughing a little more than usual that morning. It felt tight in my chest, like someone was pressing down hard with invisible hands. I brushed it off. Just allergies, I told myself. But by mid-afternoon, I couldn't breathe. I was shaking. My coworker, Linda, rushed to help and called 911. That's the last thing I remember about Earth. What came next? I don't know how to describe it except to say that death didn't feel like darkness. It felt like silence. A holy, humming silence that wrapped itself around me like a veil. I was suddenly out of my body, fully conscious, fully aware, but floating. I saw them working on me, shouting my name, pumping my chest. But I couldn't reach them. I didn't want to. Not because I didn't care, but because something was pulling me, drawing me somewhere higher. There was light all around me, but it wasn't a bright, blinding light. It was soft, like dawn breaking through morning fog. And then, I wasn't alone. A being of light stood before me. No wings, no thunder, just peace, radiating from him like warmth from the sun. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew this was an angel. He didn't speak with his mouth, but I could hear him in my soul. He said, "You were heard, Abigail. You are not here to stay. You are here to see." I started to cry, not because I was afraid, but because I felt like everything I'd ever doubted about God's love had been answered in that one moment. It was like I finally saw myself the way heaven sees me, not as a broken, anxious woman with a past, but as a daughter, a beloved daughter. Then the angel raised his hand, and that's when everything changed. The light around us dimmed slightly, and I began to see visions. Not dreams, not thoughts, but living scenes, like windows opening into different worlds. The first was of Rome, the Vatican. I saw St. Peter's Square, but it wasn't like I'd ever seen it in pictures. It was quiet, heavy, like the entire place was holding its breath. The Pope, the one I recognized as Pope Francis, was in a small chapel kneeling alone. He looked tired, burdened. There were tears in his eyes. I heard his thoughts, though his lips never moved. Help me love them, even the ones who hate me. I watched as dark shapes moved through the Vatican. Not people, shadows, whispers, things that didn't belong in such a holy place. Some were obvious: corruption, pride, greed. Others were more subtle: flattery, compromise, fear disguised as diplomacy. Then the scene shifted. I saw a conclave, red robes, solemn faces, ballots cast under the painted eyes of Christ in the Sistine Chapel. And then a new pope, a man I didn't recognize at first, but the angel told me his name, Luis Antonio Tegel. He stepped onto the balcony with a warm smile, his hands raised in peace. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Reporters cheered. But in the spiritual realm, something was wrong. The angel showed me his heart. It was conflicted. Tender, yes, full of compassion, but surrounded by pressures I couldn't imagine. Political forces, media expectations, compromises dressed up as diplomacy. He is not evil, the angel said, but he stands at a great crossroad, and he will not walk it alone. I then saw a group of men and women in suits, wealthy, influential. Some had religious titles, others were unknown. They were meeting in secret, not to pray, but to plan. There were contracts, alliances. They were speaking of the church, not as the bride of Christ, but as a brand, a machine, a tool. My heart broke. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run to that man, to Tegel, and tell him not to give in, not to trade truth for applause. The angel looked at me and said, "You must remember this. You must tell it when the time comes." Then the vision shifted again. I was in a different place, a space of shadows. It wasn't hell. It wasn't torment. It was emptiness, a place for souls who had drifted through life without purpose. They weren't screaming. They were weeping, whispering. "I didn't believe," one said over and over. "I meant to pray. I meant to ask, but I never did." This place was a warning, not of punishment, but of possibility. The angel said, "These are the souls of the indifferent, not those who hated God, but those who lived as if he didn't matter." That's when I saw something that will never leave me. A giant cathedral, beautiful, ornate, filled with golden light. But inside, hollow. The altar was empty. The pulpit spoke only comfort, never truth. The people applauded sermons, but never prayed. The angel whispered, "This is what the church becomes when it forgets who it belongs to." I wept. I fell to my knees, or whatever the spirit version of knees is. I cried out, "What can I do? I'm just one woman." The angel replied, "You are not the message, but you are the messenger." Then, just like that, I was back in my body, gasping, coughing. Nurses were shouting. Machines were beeping. My sister was crying beside me. It's been almost 4 years now, and not a day goes by that I don't think about what I saw. I didn't speak of it at first. I was scared. Who would believe me? But God began prompting me to write it down, to share it quietly, faithfully, with those who would listen. And now, here I am, telling you. I don't know who this is for. Maybe it's for you. Maybe you felt the emptiness in your church. Maybe you've wondered why everything feels hollow lately. Maybe you've been looking for signs and wondering if God still speaks. He does. He's speaking now, through a nobody like me. After returning home from the hospital, I found myself grappling with the weight of the visions I'd experienced. The world around me felt both familiar and foreign. The autumn leaves still fell gently outside my window, and the scent of pumpkin pie wafted through the air, yet everything had changed. I had changed. I began to write. At first, it was just for me, a way to process, to make sense of the indescribable. Pages upon pages filled my journal, recounting every detail, every emotion. But as the days turned into weeks, a quiet urging stirred within me. This wasn't just my story to keep. I reached out to a close friend, Sarah, someone I trusted deeply. Over coffee, I hesitantly shared my experience. Her eyes widened, not with disbelief, but with recognition. She, too, had felt a stirring, a sense that something profound was shifting in the spiritual realm. Encouraged, I began to share more openly, cautiously at first. I spoke at small gatherings, women's Bible studies, and prayer groups. The responses varied. Some were moved to tears, others skeptical. But I wasn't seeking validation. I was obeying a calling. Then, in May 2025, news broke of the election of a new pope, Pope Leo XIV. The world watched as he stepped onto the balcony, offering blessings and words of unity. But as I saw his face, a chill ran down my spine. He wasn't the man from my vision, the charismatic figure I had seen, the one with a heart conflicted between truth and compromise, was not Pope Leo. Confused, I turned to prayer, seeking clarity. In a dream, the angel returned, his presence as overwhelming as before. He spoke. The path is not always linear. What you saw was a warning, a possibility. Choices made by men can alter the course, but the call to vigilance remains. I realized then that visions are not always certainties. They are revelations meant to guide, to warn, to prepare. Despite the deviation from my vision, the essence of the message remained. The church was at a crossroads, and the faithful needed to awaken. I continued to share, to write, to encourage others to seek a deeper relationship with God beyond the walls of institutions. In time, a community formed, a network of believers who had experienced similar stirrings, dreams, and visions. We called ourselves the Watchers, not because we claimed superiority, but because we felt called to be vigilant, to pray, and to guide others gently toward the truth. As I reflect on this journey, I understand that my role is not to predict the future, but to point others toward the one who holds it. The world may continue to shift, leaders may rise and fall, but the call remains the same: to seek God earnestly, to love others deeply, and to live with purpose and conviction. If this testimony resonates with you, I encourage you to seek a deeper relationship with God. Dive into Scripture, engage in heartfelt prayer, and connect with a community of believers. Share this message with others, not to instill fear, but to inspire hope and vigilance. Together, let's be watchful, prayerful, and steadfast in our faith.